Hey everyone, it's Jeff Fisher of High School Football America. Man, I'm going to have some fun today. We had Coach Hart, the Don Shula Award winner from the AFC, on a couple of weeks ago, and now we're coming to the NFC. Bill Jacklin, Slinger High School in Wisconsin, the Green Bay Packers nominee. The NFC Don Shula Award winner is in the other side of the box, and he had a pretty good time a couple of months ago. I'm sure he still hasn't come down from it. Coach, thanks for taking the time with me today.
Thank you so much. I haven't yet. It was quite the experience, and Coach Hart and I'm glad to have met him, and we have a strong bond relationship. We communicate now with each other. It's been just wonderful. The relationships you make on these journeys is so much fun.
Yeah, no doubt about that. This is going to be mostly about the award and then get into the great year you guys had winning a state championship. But before we get into that, people around the country are like, Slinger. Okay, we know where Wisconsin is. We know about the Packers. Where's Slinger? So put on your ambassador hat here, a little Chamber of Commerce, and talk about, because I know you're a village. I saw that on Wikipedia, I believe, the village
Correct.
of Slinger. Why don't you give a little Chamber of Commerce elevator here for us?
I can do that. Village of Slinger, yeah, it's north of Milwaukee, about 30 minutes, 40 minutes northwest of Milwaukee. It's just a tiny, I mean, it's to me a tiny village. One of those places where you go and everybody knows you and you know everyone else. I go to the store, it takes me twice as long to get through to get groceries just because of all the people you run into. I grew up here. I went to school here, so like being a head coach has been like a dream job. I teach fourth grade, so it's it's uh it's a really nice place to live. It's a quiet town, but there's still a lot to do, and you're not far from Milwaukee. So there's always some place to travel and do some fun things.
Yeah, I knew you were an alum, and I was going to ask you about that because I've seen a lot of quotes from you saying, "Yeah, it's my dream job." So,
Yeah.
so tell me about because you graduated in the '90s, right? Is when you graduated?
88.
80? Oh, 80. Okay, so
Yeah.
kind of getting like toward my age and all that. But let's talk about that. You're a student there. Did you play football during your high school days?
Yeah. I played football. I played baseball, and I
Okay.
actually did tennis.
Okay, well, let's talk about then the thumbprint you put on it from the days when you played to taking over this dream job. How much did you change it? Was it kind of similar to was the way it was in the late '80s? Talk a little bit about that.
Similar, but I think just like knowing where we came from, like as far as keeping our helmet decals, those kind of things you keep. But I think you have to change, somewhat. The football's way different now than when I played.
Yeah.
The game evolves. You have to evolve. I gave a presentation at our state clinic last week talking about, you have to change if you want to grow. You have to change, and it's changed over time. But I definitely keep some of our traditions, helmet stickers, just some of those things, our colors, those kind of things together because you hear a lot from the alums if you don't. Our community
Yeah.
has a lot of people that grew up here. You don't change much without hearing about it. So I try to keep those things together, the same, but I try to grow and change with the game.
Yeah. Let's talk about last season. A perfect season, a Division II championship in the state of Wisconsin. For those of you who don't know, that's the second largest classification in the state of Wisconsin. You were number one in the High School Football America Wisconsin Top 10, powered by NFL Play Football. I'm going to let you riff on that. I can't give you an hour here to mention all of the players and all the coaches and all that, but talk a little bit about some of the people that played a key role in what happened last year to the Owls.
One of the big ones is my coaches. I said this. I think you need to surround yourself with great people, and I've been able to do that here. It's been 14 years as head coach. I've been coaching 30 years in Slinger. I've done seventh grade, eighth grade in that, but I know how important it is to have great people around you. And when I first started coaching, you feel like you have to have your thumbprint on everything and control everything, and that's not true. You let people have that, that freedom to kind of take the role. Great things happen, and I think that's kind of what this year showed. My coaching staff was wonderful. Players we had a lot of really good players. We didn't have one single Division I player on our team.
Hmm.
We just had a lot of really really great football players that really worked together. And I think one of the biggest things was the love we had between each other. It was they really celebrate each other. But there's a lot that goes into it, from our announcers to our AD to the school. I mean, anyone that's been in the game of football knows that it is definitely a group effort in everything you do, and you need everybody. I've had the best managers I've ever had this year. I had three young ladies that were outstanding, taping our practices and making sure we have everything ready. Everybody does their job great, and great things happen.
Yeah, is there any way to put it into words about being that young man playing for Slinger High School and then getting that dream job? You spent a lot of time, it seems like, as an assistant as well until you got the head job. I mean, when you finally get to hoist that trophy, which I guess it was a long time for the school itself, can you put that into words now that you've had what 4 or 5 months to kind of think about it and reminisce about it?
It's hard. Like you feel like that moment is so far away, like that's not even like maybe in your thought process. I don't know if it can be sometimes because you're focused on the day-to-day things. So when it did, I did think about it before the state game, like wondering, gosh, what's that going to be like if that would really happen? And then when I got to do it, I was like, well, first of all, it was a lot heavier than I thought, but but when you get to do it, it's just, I guess what it does, it just validates all the hard work that everyone has done in the community, your coaches. It just you're overcome with joy.
Hmm.
I don't think that's my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is like my relationships I have with kids is like the most important thing, and going to weddings and going to graduations and those. But being able to do that, it just kind of, I feel like it puts us on the map a little bit that we're doing the right thing. You never know. You think you're doing the right thing, but when you get to do that, it's kind of like the stamp. Yeah, we finally did it.
One of the great things I love when I get to interview coaches around the country, and of course, we obviously do a lot in the big states, right? The
Yeah.
Texases, the Floridas, where we are in Georgia, California, all of those. But we don't get a lot of Wisconsin people, on the show here. So I want to talk a little bit or allow you the opportunity to talk about Wisconsin high school football in general. It's kind of like you did at the beginning with Slinger, put on that ambassador hat, talk about, we know about the Packers, we know all about that. You guys play your championship at Camp Randall Stadium and all that. That's cool. But could you give the people around the country a little snapshot of where Wisconsin high school football is in 2025?
What's unique about Wisconsin, I taught Coach Hart in Indianapolis. He has a school of like 3,300 kids. We don't have that here in the state of Wisconsin. We have a couple schools that are around that 2,000 mark, but we have a lot of high schools that are between like 1,000 and 1,200. And what's really nice about that is that your school, it just seems like school spirit, that smaller community, lots of rivalries. We're not very far apart from a lot of our opponents, and it makes like a lot of fun. We have a Hartford High School is real close to us. We have a rivalry with them, and we actually do a coaches versus cancer game to raise money for. We're the biggest and the largest in the state, and I think that's what you get in Wisconsin. Is just that you have communities that get together. They understand that you're rivals, but then you also there's a greater cause, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of starting 8-man football. I think kind of like the Dakotas and the kind of the outlying parts of Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin, western Wisconsin, and I think the nice thing about that, it seems to have made football blossom again, like where it was maybe not, the numbers are down. That some of those schools now can have that,
Right.
like Friday Night Light experience, even though it's with 8-man. I think that's a great opportunity.
Yeah, that with those small schools like that, that true Friday Night Light experience is there. You're right about that. I'm glad you mentioned coaches versus cancer because I was going to bring that up in the conversation here. I know that you had, a tough year in 23. Your wife passed away from cancer. I know your parents, all three passed away, I guess, in a relatively close period of time. And I just wanted to ask you, this question because I see a lot of good articles written about how it was able to bring that community together, how to brought the team together. Can you talk about that now a little bit and pay a little homage to how that played a role in 2024?
Yeah, yeah, I'm a little emotional about it because our community really rallied around Brenda. We had a big fundraiser, and it was hard a little bit because the first game of 2023 that fall, my mom was still around, but she couldn't come to the game. So that very first game season, my wife, my dad, and my mom, who come to every game since I started coaching, weren't there. I guess I looked at it as a coach. You preach how to overcome, and persevere, and I felt like I need to show that. It was hard, but I think you're a role model for a reason, and you need to do those things. And I got a lot of help. My football team of the fall of 23 was really great. Get me through even the 22 when I was going through all this. They were like my own kids. I mean, I have 3 kids. They all played for me. Aunt Chase graduated this year, but I think that helped him too, just having those buddies around and you had something to do, focus on something other than that. So it means a lot. This coaches versus cancer game. John Redder is the head coach of Hartford. His dad passed away of cancer, and I think most people that family and friends, have been touched by cancer. And we just felt like it would be something. I had a coach that started this back when my first year. He had cancer, and he passed away actually 3 months after he started this event 14 years ago. And it's really grown. And I think that John and I take it to heart. We really feel like it's important and kind of brings both our communities together. Hartford and Slinger, I mean, we're like a mile apart, not
Uh-huh.
even. And so yeah, I think you just in life you can't live in that that area where you're just down all the time. I think you got to understand you have to move on. You never forget, but you have to move forward in just
Yeah.
everything you do. And I'm trying to do that for our players and be that kind of role model for them. And I feel like they help. They don't realize how much they help me. Like little things they do that are great. So yeah, I'm was quite the year, kind of up and down. It's like it was a roller coaster. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, my prayers go out to you and your family there. I know that's tough. I knew it was going to be tough when I asked you the question, but you did a great job. Obviously, we were getting a real good glimpse into why you were nominated by the Packers and ultimately win the Don Shula, award, that prestigious award. You mentioned I was going to bring Chase up as well, but
Yeah.
you do have three sons. You said they played for you. I was just curious what that was like for you. What kind of dad were you? Were you a little tougher on them than the rest? What did it teach you about yourself when you coach your kids? Got any nuggets there for us?
Well, the big thing, the positives way outweigh the negatives. You always have some parents. Well, he's your kid, that's why he's playing. I was harder on my kids than I am on normal players, but I try to treat all our players like they're my kids.
Right.
It's been interesting. It's been great. The experiences, the ups and downs. I mean, obviously Chase this year, the highs with it was just wonderful. It's going to be really weird this year because I think since probably like 2016, I've had one of my sons
Well,
in our program. This coming fall, I won't have any of them, so it'll be a little different for me. But we have kind of next generation of my coaches' kids coming through. Uh, Great experience. To be able to share that moments with them and to be there with them, it's really hard to put into words. Just an awesome experience. And like I said, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
yeah, I know Chase was honored with a student athlete, an academic award this year. I'm going to bring him back in a little bit as it relates to the Shula, but let's get to that now. Obviously, the Shula Award isn't necessarily about wins and losses, but we do have a lot of coaches that do well in the season and they get honored by the Packers. So before we get to the Shula, let's just start with being the Packers Coach of the Year and their nominee. What was that like when you found out? What were the emotions with it?
Great honor. I got a call from our coaches association because they're in partnership with the Packers, and they called me and told me. And to me, that's huge, just because that's your peers that are voting on it. I mean, that's I have a lot of coaching friends. We just had our state clinic. I love going there. I love being able to just hang out with guys that do the same things I do, and talk about things. And that was an honor that way. And then the Packers, wonderful job, like class act, had us up for a banquet. And the funny part about it was when I got to the banquet, they kind of pulled me aside because it was coaches of the week and then coach of the year. They pulled me aside to tell me, hey, by the way, we just got word you won Don Shula Award. And I'm like, or they said I was a finalist. I'm like, oh, that means I'm still like, I didn't realize I won the award, but they're all giddy and happy. And then it didn't sink in, to be honest. But they said, oh, you got to keep under wraps for like a whole month. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, but it was great. Just being there with those other coaches at the banquet up at Lambeau and doing a tour, and just I got to meet more people, and that's the greatest part about it. I got to meet other coaches, the AD of the year. I got to meet her. Just great people that now are kind of part of my life and that I get messages from. And I think ultimately, when you have these awards and you win these things, I think that's what you got to take from it. You get introduced to a greater population of people that are just wonderful people.
Yeah, and all the people that it's definitely a group award, like you said before, your assistant coaches, and we'll get a little into that in a second. But a little side note: when I was interviewing John Hart, who's a personal friend of mine as
Yeah.
well, we both knew that he had won, but we kind of had to act like we didn't. So
Yeah,
neither one of us said. So after we did the interview, I hung up the phone and I said, John, do you know? He's like, yeah, I know. Did you know? So I get a month though. That's a long time
that was a long time.
to keep a secret. Um, you obviously said, it was great to hear that you had won the award, and I always like throwing this question out. So, at what point in your life did you figure out that you were going to hear Bill Jacklin's name in the same sentence with Don Shula?
But point never,
No,
like never. Like I'm gonna be honest, our season this year, to be undefeated and win a state title, our very first play, we gave up an 84-yard touchdown.
oh,
That's how we started the season, and we were down 21-10 at halftime. We ended up winning that game. And on the way home, I was like, man, I hope we win 4 conference games and make the playoffs. So, but the rest of this was, yeah, just getting the playoffs was deep, not a far dream. So, well, things work out for a reason, I guess.
good story. We know all of the NFL teams, all 32, are reaching down more and more into the roots of the game, the high school. Yeah, every team has its high school coach of the week and all that, but it goes way beyond that with clinics and all that. And you kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but what does it mean to you, longtime coach in the state, to know that the team that you have season tickets for, are reaching down to the roots of the game that you love so much?
I think it's outstanding. The speech I gave at the clinic, one of the things we did here 2 years ago, the Packers have an outreach where they bring their truck and equipment and that, and then our players run drills. So we did that 2 springs ago. I think it was the spring of 2022. It was awesome. Like I think that it's one of my parts of half of my speech was about getting kids off of football, youth football, and getting numbers. And I told people I'm lucky. I teach in elementary school. I'm a great recruiter of youth football. Like they're in my line coaches at another school. But I think that's one of those things you do, and the Packers do such a great job of bringing the truck here. The Packers are on the side, equipment going through drills. They definitely do a lot of things for the high schools. They have giveaways and grants, and I think that's so important to grow the game. I love this game because it's the one sport where every single person on that team matters, even the ones that are on the field on Friday nights because of with practice and that nature. And I feel like it just we want to keep it going and keep it growing. And I think there's something for everyone on a football team. Right? There's always a spot and a position and
Yeah.
a job. So yeah, they've been great.
We're going to get back to Chase, a good student athlete, played, like you said, you talked about winning the championship with him. Oh, by the way, you get to win this award called the Don Shula Award, a prestigious award. And then you get to go to there's a couple of events I've heard of. I think one was a Pro Bowl and Super Bowl, something, I think called something like that, right?
Yeah, something like
And,
that.
and, and Chase gets to go with you. That's what I've read. I'm assuming he did. I didn't hear about that, but I was just curious. What was it like to go there, be there with a family member like you were? Can you summarize that for us?
Well, first the Pro Bowl was just me,
Oh,
and I'd
okay.
never met John before.
Okay.
So John and I were together, and what a great experience! Just talking to players, but just getting to know John. John and I had a time by a fire, by this lagoon, just hanging out, talk. Very solid dude, and I'm so happy I can call him a friend now.
Yeah.
That was great. And then the Super Bowl, what can I say? It's just amazing. Chase. I'll be honest. Chase was through a lot. Like I love all my three boys, but Chase was the one that was home with Brenda. We were getting towards the end, and she was basically in the hospital bed in our living room, and in the middle of the night, he had helped me put her on the commode. I mean, all that stuff. Not only too detailed, but
Yeah.
he's a kid that had to get up as a sophomore and deal with this, and to be able to have him share this with me was special. And he had some good times. The NFL house was right on Bourbon Street, so as an 18-year-old running up down Bourbon Street, yeah, I don't think he appreciates all the things that we got to see and do just throughout the week. It's just amazing. Amazing experience. Packer organization actually was great. They called us and right before halftime brought us down to their luxury box, and we spent the whole halftime, the whole second half of the Packers organization and Mark Murphy, which I have to thank him. It was just great experience talking to him and just overwhelming.
Yeah, we mentioned Mark's name. He goes back to when he was at Colgate. That's how old I am. I remember he was way way back there before he became the Packers main dude. And another interesting thing, and John and I have talked about this on the air during our interviews. Coach Hart of Brownsburg, folks. For when I say John, so it's Coach John
Yeah.
Hart. You guys had something similar you could talk about there. We talked about coaches with cancer and your wife when we gone through, and of course John's wife is now recovering and after going through surgery. So I'm sure you had that to talk about as well. And my prayers go out to Coach Hart at this point as well. Let's wrap things up here. Kind of gave you a little bit of an opportunity with your coaches and all that. This is not an individual award. Yes, your name's on it. Yes, you're the guy that went to the Super Bowl and you're getting all the interviews and all that. But who would you like to thank that helped you achieve what you were able to achieve this year?
Oh my gosh. Like I said, mainly my coaches. I mean, they all have a role and they all do. It's like I can't even explain. It's year round. They understand the whole understanding the relationship part of this game, like in the weight room. We don't get paid to be in the weight room off season. Our guys are in there all the time, our coaches, because they just get it. That's where you got to build strong bonds with each other. It's just such a huge thing, and it that made a difference because, like I said, if you were in our locker room before games, after games, during practice, you could feel that it's hard to put in words, but that love, and that's why I use love. Um, Between players. I mean, they got so jacked up. Our coaches got jacked up for each other. It just one of those things where they celebrated more others than themselves. And I think when you get to that point, it's just almost anything's possible. I feel like, it's just you're together and you feel like you're never out of anything and you have each other's back. And it's just great. I mean, some of the players I had this year, I will say our quarterback, Michael Thede, he was in my fourth grade class.
Yeah.
So he might not know a lot about math, but he knows a lot, no, okay, about football. But it's one of those things. I every game for 2 years, him and I after a national anthem turn to each other and say we love you, love each other, give each other a hug, and I'm gonna miss things like that because there's special people.
Yeah.
He's a special kid, uh, you know, old beyond his age, and I just so I really reflect just all the people that did stuff for me even beyond the season before that for the fundraisers and that. I get time to think about it once in a while. Hopefully this summer when I'm up north, I go to northern Wisconsin fishing. I have time to just kind of sit out in the boat and just kind of reflect. I think that's when you get it all
Yeah.
organized up here.
Big old smile come across your face, even if they're not biting that day, I guess.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna send you away with let's look forward here. So state championship, Packers Coach of the Year, Shula Award. What do you have for an encore in
Just being
2025?
me. I feel good about our team, but I'm optimistic every year. I feel great about our kids coming back and whatever happens. I always look. I don't focus on winning. Actually, we just focus on doing what we do, and hopefully that translates into wins like it did. I think we get a little help from upstairs
Oh
over the
yeah.
season, but I think you just got to be true to yourself, and that's what got you there. So stay true to that. You know what I mean? Don't try to be something you're not, and that's what I tell people. And I loved I love what I do. I teach fourth grade. I coach football, high school football. I love it. I'm a lucky person, and I just gonna keep plugging away at that.
Well, I think the people that had a chance to watch this now get a glimpse inside of why you won the Don Shula Award. Congratulations, Coach. Continued success. Have a great 2025, and thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
Thanks, Jeff. I really appreciate it.